And we're live. Welcome back, everybody. Back again. Had an awesome weekend. Chilling with Golkey for my birthday. Had a great time. Thanks for all the birthday wishes, everybody. Birthdays just don't seem that important anymore. It's like every day, I think rather than the celebration of the day you were born, I think the important thing is every day that you continue to persist. Much more important than an incremental birthday every year. But it's still fun. How's everybody doing? Today we're going to kick it off by just looking at the chart and talking about just where HEX is in its market cycle and try to come up with answer to the question of, is the HEX bottom in? I always say, like, you never know until it already is, because, you know, it's always impossible, truly impossible to predict. But, you know, we're going to be looking at the charts, also going to be looking within like everyone's emotional state. That's a big driver. I think even more important than just the numbers on the screen is the emotional sense that everyone gets, because the price charts are really a measure of psychology. You know, so there's a handful of stuff going on. There's the, you know, the numbers on the chart. There's the macro stuff going on. There's the psychological state of the hexagons, the success or lack of success of recent, you know, kind of broader marketing efforts. There are new things going on in the ecosystem, like with Maximus, with Hedron, etc. There's a proliferation of shitcoins that are, you know, trying to compete with HEX by selling to hexagons. There's a whole lot going on. This is a really big year. We're, you know, it's been about a year since the top, and it seems more electric than ever. You know, but there's also been some serious pain. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about all that. Let's see what's going on in the chat before we hop into it. Happy belated birthday, says Crypto Street. Thank you. Your name isn't Dipcatcher for nothing. Yeah. When I first got into crypto, I was more like a pump chaser, but then I settled back into it. And honestly, do you know what it is that really had me reconsider everything about crypto and my strategy? Was when it was leading up to the HEX free claim phase. It was the first time that HEX was supposed to be 2 weeks away. This was in like early 2019. And I sold my truck for Bitcoin for the free claim. So I had no car. I was driving my girlfriend's car. And so I had my Bitcoin, and I was so impatient waiting for the HEX to launch that I almost lost all of my Bitcoin margin trading on Kraken. And I literally lost it longing into the pump from when Bitcoin really shot up. I remember it was like one night it shot up from like 4K to 5K, like in seconds. There's like a single order that ratcheted the price up. And I had limit orders down at like 3K to go margin long, and it just like yoinked up, and so I chased it. So I'm like, I longed 5K, and then it yoinked down to like 45K just in like, you know, the inner cycle trading. Panicked, closed my position, it yoinked right back. Literally, I got chopped up from this, and when I look back, it's just like, you know, the trades, it was literally just pump chasing. And like, pump chasing can work if it's like a many year long cycle, but what's pretty crazy is that when you think about all the pumps you chase, like almost always, you know, can you even reach that same price into a dip? And so around that time, just like almost losing, literally, and that was all the money I had. I was dead broke, like literally losing almost all my coins at like but right before a bull market kicked off, just from pump chasing. That whole experience really reframed my perspective, and so that's why, you know, and that's when I changed my name to Dipcatcher. and really started focusing in on that type of strategy where, you know, you can dollar cost average into high quality things, into dips, and then you're not at the whim of like just chasing pumps. Because so many people, literally, I get so many DMs, people like, there's this thing coming out, what do you think about this, should I get this? And it's like already pumping. It's like, look, like if you're asking someone else what to do, like you're already losing. Like you have to generate your own strategy that you can just do. And also you should ideally be applying strategies where your timing doesn't have to be very accurate. And that's like really the value of like taking more of like a dip catcher approach instead of a pump chaser approach, is that if you're pump chasing, the timing in your actions needs to be very accurate. But if you're just like averaging into dips, like you could have horrible timing and still outperform the people that are pump chasing. So you know, overall, that's what, you know, the name dip catcher really came from, like personal experience of literally almost getting wrecked by being impatient waiting for HEX to launch, because I almost lost on my Bitcoin. And so, you know, it's dip catcher. There's two types of people in this world: dip catchers and pump chasers. Which one are you? Let's see this bottom. We'll pull up the charts to Sexox. Will, what's up, dude? Always wish I had more HEX even after scooping up dips. Yeah, you can never have enough. What up, Bob Farter? Fog Rider and Bob Farter in the house. Happy birthday, thank you. Crypto Slots says, yo, what's up, dude? I'm thinking the dip is not done. The only reason is to show these one more time starting November. Could be. Very surprised Maxi's going down for HEX. Not really. I mean, you know, also what is down? Like it's already priced in, like, okay, the price is 1.6. That's already pricing in 2 years of yield. So, you know, it's less than what it was a month ago, but what was happening a month ago? It was like a crazy event where there's a lot of like, you know, instantaneous buy pressure from the minting of team. And so, you know, there's, you know, that whole kind of sell the news event, like as soon as the team minting ended, that was kind of the news to be sold. So, you know, but also I'm actually not surprised. Like, and if you go back to even some of the earliest discussions around what could make the price of Maxi go down, one of the main things that I cited was HEX price going up. And that's because from a Maxi person's perspective, I mean, just for ease of calculation, when the price was 2-to-1, 2HEX per Maxi, when HEX goes up by 10%, and with nothing changed on the Maxi HEX ratio, the Maxi holder went up by 20%, just because like that Maxi price relative to HEX is like a multiplier on the HEX price, and a multiplier on the HEX price moves. And so, you know, so like when the price goes up of HEX USD, the Maxi holders are experiencing the higher ROI than everyone else. And so those people may be more likely to sell because maybe their ROI target was hit. Or maybe, you know, like from the Maxi holder's perspective, the price is like 7 cents. Now it's, you know, as opposed to 3, you know, 3 moving to like 4 for the HEX holder, you know, made the Maxi holder feel like they're going up even more. And then just as, you know, those, you know, selling HEX, because, you know, Maxi's just HEX. It's wrapped staked HEX, but it's purely HEX. You know, anyone who minted it, put in HEX 1-to-1. And so from that person's perspective, the HEX price was never at 3 cents. It was I think the lowest got to, it was like 5 or something. And so from the Maxi holder's perspective, price was just higher. And, you know, maybe, and so from their perspective, the price was at 7 cents. And 7 cent HEX maybe is a good sell target for people. And maybe we'll see a lot of HEX selling at 7 cents. How we did when HEX hit 7 cents a couple months ago. So it's actually not surprising at all that the Maxi going down versus HEX into a pump. Combination of like a month ago, you know, was a big kind of sell the news event, and then also, you know, just like people, they're speculating. There's a whole lot of pump chasers just like going from thing to thing. You see that a lot. Like when you click on people selling Maxi, it's literally people that are like literally trading in and out of all kinds of shit, not really making any progress, just trading. It's kind of funny to see, actually. So it's not too surprising. Thank you. Hex Hodl says I'm a dump chaser. A few years ago, pre-crypto for me, 2016, I used to mess with options trading. We get trashed in both directions. Overall, I pretty much broke even, but learned a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's, those markets are even tougher, because those are generally like shorter time frame things, and it's not like something you're buying for 15 years. It's like those things expire after some period of time. What's up, Abbott? Franklin says, what's Gucci? Al Merlos says, bros, sis. It's amazing to not look at Hex price in a while because I'm staked for long term, but when I pop in a check on price, boom. See, actually, dude, I don't believe you. Everyone that's staked out, total, like 100% illiquid, I guarantee they're looking at that Hex price every single day. No one's not looking at the price, dude. That doesn't happen. But I hope you are one that does not let it consume your life. That's funny. I'm just kidding though. I can't get excited for 10% pump now. It's not. Yeah, literally like that. That's maybe what it is like, I don't know. I mean, people are excited just that it's good because we've literally been here. Let's just pull up the chart now. Let's pull up the chart that one just because it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so here we are. So he says Hex can get excited for a 10% pump now. Let's not be like the maxis. Well, I think really what people are excited about is that for how long is this? Basically for let's get a time range. Basically for 68 days, we're either going down or going flat. So part of it is like 2 months of just like not feeling good, 2 months of waking up. It's like here you are snoozing. Day wakes up, everyone scrambling to stake wrap to look at the chart, and then they see it red number minus, or just like flat 3.1 cents for like a month. It was literally like at that 3 cent range for so long. I think just like, the fact that you wake up and there is something green and not just like 1 or 2%, like, it does kind of renew hope. So, I don't know if it's that people are excited for the 10% pump. I think people are excited that just something is different than what's been happening for the last 2 months. So, yeah. Yeah. Maxi's been overpriced in Hex, way ahead of its yield. We'll hit $1, then 10, then 100. That's not if, but when. We've been at 10 cents before. We're going to be there soon. Most pumps in crypto come from VCs and companies in general, not the plebs. Serious investors care a lot about the market cap of an asset and the fact that 9% belongs to a single entity. This is a low volume pump due to liquidity shift. Liquidity distribution tells a better story than chart itself. Oh yeah, we're going to look at that in just a second. Looks like a double bottom though for sure. Moon, yes. I'm neither bearish nor bullish. I am moneyish. Yeah, let's go back to what he said here. Most pumps in crypto come from VCs and companies in general, not the plebs. Serious investors care a lot about the market cap of an asset and the fact that 9% belongs to a single entity. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the risks, from people's perspective, is that there's like and it's almost like it's like a thing that people that are in the game know what's going on with that, but people outside, they're not. And in some ways, it's actually like things like that are, while they can keep people out, anything where people misunderstand something about an asset and then they later on realize it, that's like a fundamental for the price. Like, because if there's some reason that people are mispricing an asset based on their, like, the information that they have or their perspective on that information, the market prices that in. As soon as like reality sets in, then it's, so that in some ways it can be detrimental, just that like, a huge amount belongs to some entity. And it's pretty funny because today I was just looking at the Pulse X sacrifice, and then there's like something like 250 billion hex in there. And like, and I don't know, I'll have to look at like the amount of hex that was like OA related or like launch related, compared to the amount of user hex that was sent to the sacrifices. Because it's just like pretty funny that like the outside world thinks, oh, that guy has too much, but then the inside crowd's like, that guy doesn't have enough. And so there's kind of this whole like dual parallel universe going on, and over time, I mean, that is over quite a long time that hex gets kind of like recirculated if it stays not staked, but yeah, it's all part of the game. I'm neither bearish nor bullish. I'm moneyish. Let's go to look at it. Is a poly contract loading on 3 chains? Maybe. I mean, like, we'll have to do some like serious analysis on really if those other chains really matter. Maybe though. Maybe I might do that. It's a tough sell, really. Hex is. Yeah, I mean, Hex itself isn't a tough sell, and also, and that's kind of what we've always said about the stake pools, is that it's almost like a fresh coat of paint on Hex, without kind of some of that overhead, where it captures the benefits and upsides of Hex, but it's not Hex, and so that maybe that's like a type of sales strategy that we haven't really employed fully, is rather than promoting Hex itself, maybe just promote your favorite staked Hex pool. and where those, you have Maxi, Base, Trio, Lucky Desi, you can mark them as earning high yield, where they're backed by high yielding assets. You don't really need to talk about what those high yielding assets are that back them, and then kind of let those things be on their own. And then once someone's convinced of that, it's like, because if it's all about first impression, it's like, and even that's how I like describe to people, is like, you if you lay out the things that are like, no matter how you look at them, are net positive, things like, high yield that is not tied to some, like high risk thing like lending, and then also where it is in its like S curve, something that has, there's 100,000 staking addresses, but there's really probably like 50,000 users, and if you count users that have over $10,000, there's probably 20,000 maybe, and so the catastrophic systemic risk relative to like where it is in its S curve, like that's a huge boost there. You have crazed lunatics that are obsessed with it, like it's something that truly takes people's lives over, and also like those aspects of it, like that's unique and special. And then all the things that are just like overhead, or like things that may have negative connotation around Hex, those are all like external to like Hex, like the asset. And like it's actually like, you want to buy things where there's misunderstanding from like the general public, because if you only buy something that's already like well understood and like unanimously loved by the public, it's like, okay, you're the one buying the top. So kind of framing those things as like misunderstandings, and then just like a testament of where Hex is in its adoption cycle, that's how I try to like frame like any like negative connotation about that Hex may have, such as like centralized ownership, personality of the person who is involved in the creation of it, like those are things that are external to Hex as the asset. Maybe those are part of Hex as like a culture, but they're external from Hex as an asset, and so just like framing those as like, like that's the opportunity. Like, what if the creator of Hex was like unanimously loved, every person on Earth already knew about him, already loved him, thought he was the best person ever, a true saint? Then there kind of probably be no upside left. But like a kind of misunderstood founder, kind of misunderstood countercultural community, that's backed by like a really competitive crypto asset with really strong monetary policy. Like, you look at different coins' monetary policy. Like, Bitcoin has pretty good monetary policy. Like, the halvening cycle approaching a fixed unit for its use case, like that's actually a really strong monetary policy. You know, even Dogecoin has pretty strong monetary policy. How the inflation rate dwindles over time because it inflates at a fixed unit. So like, you know, that has pretty good monetary policy. Things like Zen, horrible monetary policy. You know, horrible. But that's okay. You know, people choose to build whatever they want to build. So like, but like HEX, like with its 3.69% inflation, which is really just reallocation of HEX supply from one class of HEX users to another, where that inflation, like rather than thinking about like the total supply inflating of any coin, just think about it as if every coin had a total supply of one. And so it's just a pie. Just think about a pie chart. And you as a user, your piece of the pie is either growing or it's shrinking. And so with HEX, with the 3.69% inflation, it's really just reallocating supply from liquid HEX holders to staked HEX holders. And that's an awesome trade. You know, it's not like in Bitcoin, the inflation goes to, in like Bitcoin or Dogecoin, the inflation goes to external users. Like those, like there's no differentiation between how much skin in the game do the Bitcoin miners have, or the Dogecoin miners have, or like the Zen coin minters have. Like the supply is not at all linked to how much skin in the game that those users have in that asset. Whereas in HEX, the highest earners of that inflation, meaning the people whose piece of the pie is growing the most, those are the people that have the most skin in the game on the longest time frames. So HEX is like, just the monetary policy of HEX is like a massive competitive advantage. And so, you know, all the negative things about HEX really are external to it. Like those are extrinsic properties. Like there's intrinsic properties. Those are things that are like defined in the asset. And then there's the extrinsic properties, which are like the perception of it, you know, the people around it, like they're entirely separate. And so, you know, the best types of assets you want to buy are the ones that have very strong, solid intrinsic properties, relatively low risk, like very low systemic risk, high price risk, like price volatility risk, and perhaps high centralization of ownership risk. And then huge extrinsic misunderstandings. Like that's like literally like best case scenario. And that's kind of where we're at with HEX now. Is, you know, we're almost 3 years into it. We've experienced like a full cycle, you know, from launch to when it was relatively unknown, through like a major 2-year bull run. And then now we're, you know, a year through a bear run. It's like, you know, where it's never had any critical failure. The worst thing that happened was the people that had a lot of it from early on sold. That's literally the worst thing that's ever happened to HEX. And it's not even like a bad thing. It's like, okay, that's just markets. Like that's the whole point. So, you know, while it can be a tough sell, at least the people I'm talking to, they kind of get it. But maybe for like regular mom and pop user, you know, where they're like kind of triggered by personality traits. For those users, it's a little bit harder, but you know, and also, I mean, anyone that I'm talking to is probably just going to be persuaded, to be honest. So, like those, I don't find it a tough sell. Just got paid, Lucky or Desi. Well, look at the chart. What can you get more T-share exposure through? That's probably want to do it. Probably, honestly, dude, Lucky's so much cooler than Desi. The one that the long term one that no one was thinking about. Everyone was thinking about Desi. Everyone wanted Desi. That's why I like Lucky. I like the underdog. I like the thing that like the crowd didn't do. So I like Lucky, but don't ask me. You make your own choice. Look within and hit the buy button on whatever you want. Especially with all new shiny objects. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, like these are. It's because like I've been wanting. This is something Golk and I were talking about this weekend. We're like, okay, like 2019 was like the year of the Hex launch. 2020 was like the year of like kind of Hex breaking through. 2021 was the year of the fucking run. Maybe the run of the century. And then 2022 is like combination of like brutal bear market, but also this whole proliferation of like, you know, new coins related to Hex. Not even related, well, related to Hex in terms of like Hedron. It's like coins that are like related to Hex. That would be Hedron. There's coins that are like amplifying the Hex value proposition, like with Maxi. And then there's coins that like use Hex as like the distribution channel or like the marketing group. And those are like ones, you know, like the Pulse Doge coin that just airdropped to users. And Hedron kind of falls in that category where it's like that was like the distribution group. I'd say like Hedron like adding another income stream to Hex stakes. I think that's like a huge breakthrough. And like just like a one-off airdrop to Hex users to try to get them to buy your coin, you know, like that's honestly a great distribution technique. Like we've with Maximus we've picked up because we haven't done an airdrop yet. 100% of our coins have been 1-to-1 mints, like true skin in the game. And you know, so we've kind of missed out on like look, everyone knows about you because everyone got their free airdrop. But it's kind of a good thing, honestly. Like I would rather everyone learn about it later, you know, and then have the people. So then the people that were in the game get rewarded for being in the game, instead of people just getting rewarded for like having had the coin. So, you know, but those are kind of the different categories. And then there's like the ones that are like unrelated at all to Hex, but then market to Hex. Maybe they're created by someone who's in Hex or acted like they're in Hex. And then, so those are kind of different categories. And we've seen this proliferation of coins just like in our little echo chamber. And I think a lot of that has come from the, just Richard launching Pulse Chain really opened Pandora's box, because it went from like where we were kind of like a singular asset focused community to now it's like, okay, now there's a new coin. And also with the Pulse and with Pulse X. So it's like right off the bat, 2 new coins, and then the incentive token for Pulse X markets. So like literally like right off the bat, Richard kind of sets the tone with like, okay, 3 new coins are coming, and then introduce that term sacrifice. And so, you know, we had the Richard sacrifices. Everyone saw how successful that was in terms of like a cash generating event. And so all of these other sacrifices popped up, like sacrifice for dog shit. And so it kind of opened a Pandora's box in that way among the Hexagon crowd. And then there's a lot of demand for that stuff, because it's like the thing with the, like, because so much of the sales pitch of Hex going into 2021 was 10,000x. Like, look how well we all did. And so if that's the, you know, that being the sales pitch, the crowd that attracts, those people have high risk tolerance. They want to take on a lot of risk, and they want to get a lot of reward. So kind of the jumping around from shiny object to shiny object is really kind of like it's like a sign of the category of people that were drawn in. And so, you know, it's almost like not even surprising that there's like this kind of proliferation of all these things, and then people jump from thing to thing. And also that like kind of just like boredom I mean, look at the chart. It's like basically for it's like it's like in March of 2022 for like this whole from once we had this like big move down, it's like big move down, it's like things are just like trending downwards, but then like February through April or May, it was like 3 months of being relatively flat. We had the maxi pump just from so much people buying HEX and just putting HEX into maxi, but then mid-May happened, pulse chain delay announced, big leg down, and so there's like this like basically 2 months of straight down all summer long, and then it was just like flat. So like there's just like this like kind of boredom in there, and then also with like so many users that really like bought. I mean, it's like by now when you look at the like zoom out on this like weekly chart. So this isn't the chart that shows the full bottom, So like everyone that bought, so the launch of this, so this misses about 5 months of market data. 6 months of market data is missing from when the HEX USDC chart went up on Uniswap, which is what this is pulling from. And so like, we had, so as of now, everyone who bought before mid-May of 2021, so about a year and a half of buyers are in the green, and then a year and a half of buyers are in the red. And so the people that like way back here, when 100% of Hexicans were in the green, everyone was a Hex Maxi. Everyone had experienced, not everyone, but like a big handful of people had experienced massive performance from HEX. There's a lot more allegiance to HEX in that type of setting. And now that we've experienced our first real bear market, and a big cohort of users have not experienced anything positive out of HEX, those people aren't necessarily as allegiant, and they're more willing to be wanting to like jump in a new thing, starting from zero, wanting to be an OG in a new thing. And so I think that's why there's been like this proliferation of these shiny objects, is because it's almost like people are targeting a group of users where they know that a lot of them haven't experienced like massive life-changing performance yet, and they're seeking that. So it's almost like easy pickings that like, how many users did we onboard into? So like Apex.win. We should also look at the video that Crypto Coffee made about, I didn't finish watching it today, but he was discussing like the user growth during the, like, just to kind of categorize like when did the HEX buyers buy. But like here, like when we look at the current staker chart, like the big movement here was from, it's kind of moving slowly, and then we saw this like big move up here in mid to late 2021 when the prices were at the all-time highs. And so huge, I mean, just like right here, the staker count went from 38 in July to, by the end of the year, 73. So almost 2x user, or at least staker class growth during that time period. And the price during that time period was from July 8 cents to 50 cents. So there was a lot of users that were onboarded in that time. And so if you're launching a new coin and you want people that are like enthusiastic, they're like willing to be part of a community, it's like, what better group than the Hexicans, especially that new cohort of Hexicans. So it has been really interesting, especially from our perspective launching coins, but it's like our coins are like literally just hex. So that's kind of fun. It's like sometimes I feel like we get bundled into the shiny object thing, but our shiny object's a little different. It's like when you're buying any of the pools or minting any of the pools, you're literally just holding hex. You're holding wrapped hex. So it's a little different from some of the other shiny objects. And there's like a whole spectrum of shiny objectness. Like I'd say that the Maximus stake pools are like right on the far edge of the spectrum of like entirely hex related, like adding, improving a problem that isn't hex that was known during the audit, but they didn't think it was going to be that bad. And then just the nature of reality changed and the problem got really bad. And so that's like a direct solution to a problem within hex staking. So that's like on the far end of the shiny object spectrum. But then like on the way other end of the spectrum are like literally like a coin that's programmed to only go down in price. And so like there's like this whole spectrum of shiny objectness. And I think, the pools are on one side. Team's probably a little bit more in the middle because team is not just hex, even though team is it probably goes pools and then team, because team is like a growth engine for hex. It's like a coin that the income is earned in hex, but it's not hex itself. It's not redeemable for hex like the pools are. And it's a growth engine where team stakers, their income goes up when they onboard new stakers in the pools. Their income goes down if people stop staking in those pools. So like our level of shiny objectness is like problem solution as opposed to like pure speculative thing. Because like that's at the end of the day, like you can't shame people for wanting to take risk to earn stuff. Like this whole point of speculation, and speculation is very important. Like I'm a full believer in speculation. That's why I never really come down too hard on like any of these, like any new coins or anything, because it's like, there's the whole point of crypto is speculation, like pricing assets, speculating on future value. Like it's like a critical part of humanity. And so it is very important. And also like people are free to choose what they do. And I even think that it's kind of a good thing for Hex for there to be competitors. Because like how strong could Hex be if it's not faced with serious competition? And I think that Hex can only become stronger with competition. So, because then the narratives are forced to be updated. The sales tactics are changed, and so it's kind of a good thing for competition to, for there to be competition. That's kind of what 2022 has been. It's kind of like this proliferation of shiny objects. The year of the shiny object in Hexago. Combination of a bear market blues, pulse chain, missed the expectations of pulse chain, that whole thing, and then I think people just frustration, boredom, wanting those high gains now. I think that's the 2022 is the year of the shiny object. Hedron is shifting the monetary energy from Hex to all the new objects around, not really new money entering. Yeah, I mean, definitely, like that's what these things are. Like their main source of users are hexagons, and if all the hexagons and all their money is just already in Hex, then any new demand for something else that's not Hex or like not like literally like I wouldn't say that like the stake pools pull money out of Hex. Is just shifting the value from you're not just buying the Hex that was in the Uniswap pool. You're buying Hex that was first wrapped in another coin and then sold on Uniswap. So like all the stake pools, those are just like extensions of Hex. So you're still buying Hex and you're buying those. But other things like definitely dilute the monetary energy. But also it's like that's their choice. It's like not your keys, not your cheese also means that you can't control what someone else does with their keys. It's not just about like whether or not you're in possession of your money. It's about the control you have over someone else's money. And so not your keys, not your cheese definitely applies to that. Not complaining, just surprised and curious how Destiny's still no parity of Hex would have expected. See, that you make a good point there. It's like because you and everyone else expected it, it doesn't happen. Like Hex went to the moon because no one expected it to. Like, Maxi pumped like crazy because no one expected it to. Like with Maxi, when we look at the numbers, there was 294 million over 5,300 users. The average Maxi mint, did I get that right? 55,000. And with the pools that we had, now it was like 810 million. Wait, did I get these numbers right? 294, yeah. It was 810 million over, it was like 3,600. So the minting participation in these new pools was up by 4x. So that, I mean, that's like probably the main reason why there wasn't the insta pump, is because, you know, everyone was thinking the same thing. Like literally, like you and everyone else thought that. That's why it didn't happen. And that's honestly like the only I mean, not the only bearish thing, but probably the main bearish thing about Pulse Chain is that everyone thinks they're going to get rich. And that like there was, you know, it's hard to, because like, you know, with the HEX that was from the OA and the OA related addresses that went in there, like I actually haven't even looked to see like how much like user generated funds were put into the Pulse Chain sacrifices and the Pulse X sacrifices. And just because there was so much put in there, and people are still sacrificing, there's still money going into those addresses. And so like all of that money that's not pushing the price up, like it's like now, like in order to, you know, double that demand, now you need hundreds of millions of dollars. Whereas like with HEX, like because it was so unknown and the God Whale just like nuked the price up like in early 2020 with just like a couple $1 million. And because there just wasn't that much, you know, like it having such a huge participation in the launch of Pulse Chain, where people went all in, and combined with everyone thinking they're just going to get rich, because like that's the thing, like if everyone thinks it's going to happen, it's like on one hand, like there are things that are like self-fulfilling prophecies, but like on the other hand, it's like if everyone's taking the same side of the bet, then it like that can like really dilute it. And it's the same thing there with like Deci, with like just like everyone thought it was gonna like insta pump, but then because everyone thought it was gonna insta pump and there was 500 million HEX put into it, combination of like everyone just thinking the same thing, plus like a lot of the demand that went into it at the minting rate instead of in the markets. That's kind of how things play out. If there was only HEX and nothing else but the wait for Pulse X, then HEX would at least not have dumped, if not been pumping rather. If there was only HEX and nothing else but the wait. No, I don't know if you can say that with certainty, you know? It's like, it's one of those things, like if my aunt had balls situation. It's like, if all this stuff wouldn't have happened, then like the whole state of reality would have been different. And so, you know, it's, you know, and also, you know, like what you can't control that. Like that's what permissionless blockchains mean. So anyone can launch stuff, anyone can promote it to whomever. So I wouldn't go so far, but he says just saying, yeah, and that you know, that all makes sense. It's all part of it. There's such asymmetric knowledge about the HEX system between those that stay a while and new investors. My buddy's friend is also BZ, aka Bezos, bro. Bezos. It's so funny. Let the bottom HEX the floor. Let the bottom HEX. It's an easier sell at the high price. HEX is like anything. If it's pumping people for a FOMO in. Yeah, and that's just kind of, you know, that's just like the psychology of it. It's like everyone wants it when the price is going up, but then when you get more of it, people don't want it as bad. Crypto Cliff says, when you do the analysis, do it on stream, please. I want to see your mental process. You want to see my mental process? Here's a trick. You go here, and you click horizontal ray. Go to 6 hour chart. Pick out where it turned around. Doop. You don't need to be smart. Doop. Doop. Maybe zoom out a little bit. Go to the weekly chart. Boom. Boom. Maybe draw some trend lines. Boom. Looks like a good buy. Like, you don't even need to think about it. I will say that the dip catcher algorithm does apply some like actual statistics to it, but it's like surprisingly stupid how it is, like how simple it is. Like with okay, so here, let me pull up a meme. There's a funny meme. There's this thing, this meme. Literally, it literally speaks so much truth. Horizontal lines, bigger brain, Bollinger Bands, some big galaxy brain, all this bullshit. Then the ultra galaxy brain, horizontal lines. So I prefer the horizontal lines because it's very important. Like, to know where price turned around is more important than anything else, pretty much. Like the range high and the range low, like that's really important stuff. So, you know, it's like, that's my mental process, is just kind of like getting a sense of the momentum and where it is relative to where it was. And also, like, horizontal lines are good for understanding the memory of the market, where like right here, for instance, at 13 cents, the price bounced off 13 cents. Like, it burst through it and then bounced off it once, twice, 3 times, and then nuked through. So that 13 cents level is probably gonna be pretty important. And then, like, even here, it's like we have kind of this like double bottom. People say double bottom, but it's really just like, okay, market turned around there once and it turned around there again, meaning that there's a lot of demand to buy at that level. And that's kind of what the horizontal lines at points where the price turned around is like where, because that tells you where like the demand overtook the supply or where the supply overtook the demand. So that's, I'm a big fan of horizontal lines, but this, I mean, you know, it's, maybe we can talk about the dip catcher algorithm a little bit. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that all my charts have this thing called dip catcher. And let me put all the data on here just so you can see what's going on. Because I do hide some of the so I do hide some of the information just on my main one because it gets kind of messy. But basically what this dip catcher algorithm is, it's a modified Bollinger Band applied to, because usually, so like for instance, just so if you don't know what a Bollinger Band is, you just go to indicators and go to Bollinger Bands. So you'll see it here. Let's hide the dip catcher one. So this is the Bollinger Bands. So what this is this orange line is a moving average, and then the blue line above and below is like the moving average plus standard deviation. It's like 2 standard deviations above and minus 2 standard deviations below. So it's like a measure of, like, a standard deviation is like in statistics. So one way to think about it. So ignore that. Who gives a fuck what that means? What it really means is that when let's see if there's a percentage. Yeah, right here. So A standard deviation is just like something that describes how widely varied the data is. So like on the dip catcher chart, whenever the price is running in one direction, you see the Bollinger Bands go up a lot, like they become very wide. So like when price is moving, like the distance between the top and the bottom of the bands is quite high. But then when price is going flat, like it did for like the last month, the bands get really low because the standard deviation, I mean, just think about it, like deviation means like deviation from the mean, deviation from the average. So standard deviation is like a measure of how widely varied the sample data was. And so when prices are going up or changing a lot, not just going up, even going down, these bands go really wide. And then when prices are in this tight band, then it becomes smaller. But the reason why I like standard deviations is that what they mean is that, like, if you're one standard deviation away, either above or below, that means that the price or the data stays within that range. It stays within plus or minus one standard deviation 68% of the time. If you do it 2 standard deviations, price or data is within that range 95% of the time. And if you do 3 standard deviations, the price is likely to be in there for 99.7% of the time. And so I like, even though, like, to be clear, Bollinger Bands are helpful, but Bollinger Bands are meant to be for, I think, so standard deviation, I think normally distributed. Let's see, and then randomly. Yeah, so technically, like if you talk to like a serious statistics person, they would say that standard deviation it's different from, because it's meant to be for things that are, and we'll have to check with my sister-in-law is a PhD statistician. I'll have to ask her what's going on. But if I remember from high school stats, which is the last time I ever did any formal statistics education, other than like the really hard, actually, no, I take it back. I did serious math in college, but in terms of like thinking of standard deviations, because prices are not randomly distributed and it's not normally distributed, it's actually chaotic. It doesn't fully fit, but it generally does. So if you talk to some, like, you know, formal stats person, they might kind of tell you differently, but it still is helpful, because if you assume that price is normally or randomly distributed, then you can assume that price stays within plus or minus 2 standard deviations 95% of the time. So anytime that it goes below that, what that means is that anytime that the price is below 2 standard deviations below here, that it's only at that level 2% of the time. And so that's like a good buy opportunity, because it's barely there. It barely gets that low. And so that's what I think is helpful about the Bollinger Bands, is that, like, if you use like Bollinger Bands to filter, you're gonna just do better in general, because it helps you filter out like when actually is a good buy opportunity. And so the Bollinger Bands, I think, are quite helpful. And so a dip catcher is, like, if you just look at this, you know, the dip catcher algorithm, it's a modified Bollinger Band. Here, why don't I just pull it up in the code? Here, I'll pull up the code for you guys. So basically what it is a modified Bollinger Band of the high or the low. So we have basis low, upper low, lower low, basis high, upper high, lower high. And so what these lines are like, here, let's just zoom in. Like, the green line is a moving average of the period low. So it's where the bottom of the wick was on each day. and the yellow is the average, is the 30-day. Yeah, let's see what the. Okay, so this is a 10 period. So that's the moving average here. Let's just to make this easier to look at. Let's look at just make it like a 21 day. Okay, that spreads them out a little bit. It's easier to see. So the green is like the moving average of the low. So you can think about the green line on the chart. So here, let's like literally just like remove the price. So this green line, you can imagine that as being like, just think about all the people that bought HEX on every single day. And they all buy, at some point, during the day, the price goes from, it ranges between the period low and the period high. This green line, if you think about it, like over the last 21 days, the average of all of the people that bought at the best available price of that day. It's like, this is like the true dip, like this is the average of the dip catchers. So like everyone who bought at like, who was the wick down, this is the 21-day average of all of those, of the price that all those people bought at. So that's like an average of like the so over a month, say your input just over a month, just for ease of description. If you do the dip catcher bands over a 30-day period, what you're thinking about is that is the average of all of the top performing buyers of every single day. Because like every day there's someone who bought the wick, or else it wouldn't be a wick. Like there's someone who bought at the very low of every day, and it made that low of that day. And so that's what the green line is. It's the average of all the lowest performing buyers of each day. And then this yellow line is the average of all the people who bought at the very peak of each day. So green is the low, yellow is the high. So like what I don't like is like when you just look at the Bollinger Bands, when you look at the source, it doesn't even let you change it, I see. So usually the default input, oh wait, no, wrong one. Okay, so the default that it always is the close. I don't like looking at the close because that's like a random point in time, midnight UTC. It's like, that's like a random price. It could be anything. I think it's much more important to know what the like lowest price possible was, because that actually tells you something important. So like that's basically like what the Bollinger or what the dip catcher algorithm is. That's like the basis for the dip catcher algorithm is taking Bollinger Bands of the period low and pulling Bollinger Bands of the period high, because then it makes sense, right? It's like the green line here, that's like the average of the best performing buyers. And so just in general, like they're like these dots you see on the screen, there's some magic applied to like picking price targets using all this information. And that's kind of what if you sign up for those email alerts, which actually haven't been going out because I'm on a free plan and I have to manually turn them back on every month. But those email alerts, they pick these values out. But like just in general, like if you want to improve your buying performance, go to TradingView, click indicators, go Bollinger Bands, add them to the chart, go here and say settings, source, go low, and anytime the price is anywhere near this bottom band, just hit buy. Don't even think about it. Don't even get complicated with it. Just hit the buy button. And like, because the reason why I built the Bollinger or the dip catcher thing around that is because it just makes sense. Where if you're buying below this green line, then you're buying at a better price than the average of all the top performing buyers over the last month. Because like every day there's like an award ceremony for the best buyer, the person who got the best price of each day. The green line would be the average of those people over the last month. And so if you just happen to buy it anywhere lower than that green line, like you're already outperforming the average of the top performers of that prior month period. So that's, you know, just in general, like you're already winning there. But then what I like about these ones here is that, okay, so the blue one is actually like the lower Bollinger Band at the period high. So let's ignore blue for a sec. Let's do the purple one. So purple is important. So let's ignore blue. So this purple line is like really important, and it almost never hits that price. It like very rarely wicks through. Like the very bottom it wicked through here. But what that means is like, because, so that's 2 standard deviations away from the, I think, let's see. Yeah, so two standard deviations away. So going back to this description of standard deviations, if you're so like, imagine this is like everyone in that group. So that average buyer, so the best buyer of every day, the average of all those people, that's this guy right here. But that purple line is right here. So that means that say there's 30 people, like, so over a month period, you take the average of all the top performing buyers of each day. And then that green line is this guy right in the middle. The purple line is this guy here. He's probably the number 1 buyer. So the purple line is like the highest performing buyer from that cohort. And so that's kind of why, you know, it's important there. But then since price barely gets there, it's like, you know, that like with there's some more magic to like actually how it determines what's in a good range. Basically, like, price needs to substantially stay in this range long enough, and then it becomes eligible for the dip catcher alert to go out. And then based on other factors is how it determines what these buy targets are. So these like blue ones are like the buy target, and the yellow shows if it's been hit. So, but yeah, that's a long-winded answer to kind of, you know, don't even think about anything complicated. First of all, if you are going to think about something complicated, make it as simple as possible, and just think about, like, you know, comparing who the top buyers are of every day, and then try to piece yourself so you're like at least better than the average top performing buyer over a month. And that's kind of the best you can hope for. Most buy because the price goes up. Yeah, okay. Not some fundamentals. Poly is the next alpha, like the current discount on Deci. Yeah. Well, I think Poly is probably going to be more. There's more alpha related in that, like, because there hasn't been something like Poly already. Like Deci had something like Maxi to look back on. Poly's like a brand new thing. Spam. Mod is slow. On the quickest mod on the channels where I have the wrench. See, I don't even know how to add people on wrenches because I'm on StreamYard and it doesn't even. Let's see. Yeah, I don't. Oh well. Yeah, Z's are fun. Ain't gonna make you rich. It's just gonna price cost the gas cost only 1 mini watts to be able to proxy increase the high centralized because Texter's doing it. Yeah, I mean the reason why centralized exchanges have the advantage on Zen is because they already have massive infrastructure for managing thousands of unique wallets that are all controlled by the same private key. Like, see, like it's like they already have that advantage. It's like they already have, you know, think about it. Like when you click receive money on your Coinbase account, where do you think that address comes from? There's like a set of private keys where they just produce tons of new addresses to take in the money, and they usually do it through smart contracts. Usually when you're depositing to an exchange, you're depositing to a contract, and where they can like perform actions on behalf of that address. So it's like, no shit, the exchanges are going to have the advantage because they already do that. So it is pretty, you know, it is pretty wild how that'll happen. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer. Gas to cost a negative externality. Yeah, that's right. Not very large, even medium hex 6 are basically worthless to this, I guess. Yeah, that's very true because, you know, and even not worthless, like just, it basically just like cancels out years of yield, which sucks. Like if you were to cancel all that years of yield out, you might as well just stake shorter. Yeah, I don't. So I think I have to log into the YouTube thing to do that, and I'm not on YouTube on StreamYard. Longest stake, higher the fee. It's absurd. Yeah, and also I do want to talk to Kyle more about, because when Dev Kyle was on that interview with Hexo, and they asked why there wasn't like a running total tally for that daily payout, he said it was something about because of how rounding works in Solidity, it like can introduce error, and then if you have error, it just propagates, because like then every day it's like that error could grow and grow and grow. But then I thought about it, and I actually wrote some Python to kind of look at like actually how that would play out, and based on just how you structure the rounding, like if you made it so the rounding was always rounding down, that could have just been part of the game. Like where maybe it started at, you know, maximum 3.69% inflation, but then perhaps over 100 years, that 3.69% inflation goes down to like 3.4% or something. So like, I actually think that would have been tolerable, having that propagation of error, so long as they always just propagated in one direction. And then if that was just part of the rules, then that's just part of the rules. So I actually think that in designing the HEX contract, especially because it was pointed out, here in the audit, very well known. Excessive gas for computation for the original max length was 50 years. Like, because it was known, and like the solution was more like a horizontal scaling type of thing, they just decreased it. And that's what the auditor said to do. It's not like the auditor recommended like some type of running total value or a different way to express that daily payout per T-share value. I kind of wish that, but also it's just like now that's just now part of the game, you know. So it's actually, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the game now, and you know, maybe some people have to experience loss because of it, but you know, that's part of the risk of any of these things. So it does kind of suck for the users that are impacted by it. It's a great thing for the stake poolers, and a great thing for the early HEX buyers who didn't do too many stakes. Really sucks for the people. Let's see if we can find it on YouTube. I can't find it. Maybe they took those videos down where they were literally just showing that they're having a stick ending every day. It's like, Jesus Christ. Desi discount right now. Let's see what that's a. Oh yeah, look at that. So like 3% discount. Because one hex is worth 1.034 deci. Nice. See, I actually like that. But honestly, like I like a discount, because like, how awesome is that to be able to buy cheap hex? Like, the name's Div Catcher. Like, I like that. I prefer that, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I mean, look at this, just random. Let's just look at this random. There's a handful of big buyers here, or big sellers. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, let's look at those ones. So on the 24th, we have. Here, let's go to the. We've really seen it ranging here. It's not like we've seen massive selling today. Oh no, actually, this was today. So let's go to the. Well, it was at a much larger discount earlier. But I mean, let's just look at this person who sold. Just see what they've got going on. So they sold it for HEX, and then that was 7 hours ago. And then since then, so it looks like they sold. Yeah, they sold it for Hedron. They're probably minting poly. Probably a shiny object guy. So that's what that person did. Let's see if this is a related address. Oh, that guy is OXCEB. And this is a different guy. Oh wow, so this person sold their Lucky, and it showed up on the HEX chart. Or on the Desi chart, because it routed through there. So yeah, just a lucky seller. Lucky's a must-have too. Yeah, you know what's going on. Redistribution of wealth. Is team at a discount? Let's see. Yeah, so about 84 or 15% to the maxi. With team, it's not really like there's a discount because it's not. It's like it's redeemable. Like discount is like more specific for things where it's like redeemable and backed by something. Yeah, we got close to parity there. But it looks like kind of a shift in like a downtrend here, and then now it looks like that we'll be able to tell if like an uptrend is going to continue. Not too much trading going on here. I'm just glad people are finding a reason for Pulse Chain to exist with their own projects. Yeah, I mean, I kind of view Pulse Chain as just like a nice to have, because like, and honestly, like building Maximus, because like early on, it's like I even knew that Pulse Chain was gonna be a hard thing to do, and there's risks that it can't ever get built. And now that they're just forking the ETH2 thing and not really going for the scalability improvements, which actually I don't even think would have solved any scalability at all. Or maybe the effects wouldn't have been as, like there would have been some other big trade-off with like higher physical throughput. It's like you're paying for that in some other way. And with like the huge gas fee savings in the Maximus ecosystem, like it's kind of like where we don't, at least for HEX staking, we don't need the Pulse Chain for that. Because that would be a bad situation, is if like the only thing that could save HEX gas for staking was Pulse Chain. Because then, who knows, like who knows what can happen. And so, but I think, again, the big opportunity in Pulse Chain, it's not the gas fee savings, it's the cross-chain markets. Like kind of what we already started to see a little bit with ETHPOW and ETH, where like those happened, but they weren't like the focus. Like the whole focus on those were like, oh, proof of work versus proof of stake. And like the cross-chain markets were kind of an afterthought. It's more like a side effect. With Pulse Chain being like more deliberate about that, that's like the big opportunity. Like the gas fee savings don't really even matter. The big money opportunity is not the gas fee savings. What's up? No, guys, I actually like that the best adult dating site is here advertising to you guys. That's why I don't have mods block them. In case you guys need a date, bring home the holidays. Tinderbot, thanks. Can you talk a little bit about Poly? Yeah, so right now I'm getting Poly ready for the audit. So yeah, we're hopefully gonna get it, and we do need to do some more testing. I'm still talking to Alex about really how to test this stuff because it's kind of hard to test something that's on like a 90-day sequence. So figuring out like a good test sequence for Poly, and then yeah. So basically, what Poly is for the new people listening it's a hedron pool for bidding on HSIs. So you mint one Poly per one hedron, and then when this flurry of HSIs comes to market through the liquidation auctions from Icosa, Poly is going to be bidding on those. And then so you'll probably end up with a handful of HSIs, and it's also going to be staking some hedron too. So the HSIs are it's basically converting HSIs into a maximum stake pool, where if you hold 1% of the Poly, you can get 1% of the end result of the basket of HSIs that the Poly contract wins. So the contract is basically done right now. I'm just like doing some testing and getting it ready for audit. Is kind of where it's at now. Hoping to launch within about 2 weeks. And yeah, so to participate in Poly, you'll just need hedron. You'll mint one Poly per hedron. And then it's going to be tradable just like Maxi is. And then at the end of the stakes, it'll be redeemable. So it's a one and done thing. And get ready. It's going to be wild. Saw you and Patrick on Hex's show today. Looking forward to the new tour. Man, that's such a refreshing take. What's up, Good Catcher? Good evening. Saw it on chat. Polytime. Desi does not get the hedron, but by now the hedron's so small. Like that's what's really bullish about hedron, is that it's becoming really scarce. Well, it's bullish and bearish. It's bullish in the sense that like the total supply of hedron is going to start like kind of dwindling, but it's kind of bearish for a new person because you as a new staker, you're not getting anywhere near the amount of hedron that older stakers are going to get. Like the people that bought when the share rate was 10,000 hex per T-share, and also when the hex price was 100 times less, those people get all hedron. Like hedron mainly goes to these people. So any new stake, including Desi, barely gets anything. Like the amount of Desi, or the like per T-share per Desi, it was I think something like $16 of hedron per Desi T-share. So if you really wanted the hedron, you should just buy it. Like if you think it's going to be worth owning at the end, you should just buy it and then stake the hedron between now and then. And then it's like you'll probably even outperforming just getting the hedron. So I don't think that like the pool is not getting the hedron really impacts it very much, because of like it made a bigger difference with Maxi, because Maxi got like the 5x bonus from the launch of hedron. But it like with the new pools, and also like you think about it, the hedron price was very low when when I was building the pools. Had the hedron price been like maybe 100 times higher than it is, I would have built in like an accounting system for like to be able to allocate the hedron to the pool token holders. But because it was so low, it was literally like pennies per T-share, depending on the especially the shorter ones. It just wasn't worth building that. And like if you want the hedron, just buy it. So it's like nothing. Like buy it with the money that you would save. Buy it with 1% of the money you'd save on your gas for staking that you're doing for the pool. Desi does much first, yeah. same, like similar APY and ending like 5 years earlier. Lucky's probably best. It comes out before the 10-year mark for the hedge fund. Yep. Lucky's my favorite too. As you can tell from my lucky hat. Got a lucky hat. I don't have any other token hats. 420 somewhere if you West Coasters had our head start. You know, the new perks should dilute the premium on all of them, especially Maxi. Yeah, I mean, and also it's like, it's better that Maximus things absorb that demand than non-Maximus things. Like, what if there were all like, there's been one copycat that ended up being a flop. I think like 200,000 hex went in, where they had like a couple million, but then moments before the stake started, they redeemed it all and didn't. And it might have been like, I don't know what was going on with that. But it literally copied the maxi code. And they, had it been bigger, we probably would have done a whole cease and desist thing. Cause maxi is not like, none of the code that we write is licensed for use. But it was so trivial that it was like, okay. But, if there were, other pools or other things like it that could be diluting anyways, it's better to like, kind of like disrupt yourself. And also, I mean, like the premium, it's like that had to do a lot with the scarcity of it, and having a bunch of people just buying up the premiums instead of like starting new stakes, that doesn't solve the gas problem for everyone. So, it's kind of an inevitable thing. Like with more pools, there's now more options, to buy from, when prior the only pooled hex stake was a maxi. So it's kind of inevitable. But it will be seasonal as well. Like probably a lot of the, and also, like with maxi, like the team launch, you had to have maxi for it. So there are some things like that which there haven't been for the other pools yet. So it's kind of one of those things too. Matt, I didn't sell no devils. I knew I should have. Yeah, I mean that's some people did. Actually, more of a density discount still. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much demand absorbed by it, and also it was 3 weeks of minting. So, like, look at the maxi chart. So maxi was a 14-day mint versus the 21-day, and minting ended on May 1st. So by May 7th, the price was 1.35. So maybe all the buyers in that first week would have just minted, and so having the shorter mint phase probably impacted premiums as well. It's pretty funny because that's still a screaming premium. Like, imagine if, let's do this. Like, imagine if this was the price chart. Like, you'd literally be thrilled. You'd be euphoric. So it's kind of funny just how the perspective of like, because in real life the price did this, because it got up here. It's funny, just like the perspective of it. POS-based blockchains are more prone to government attacks than work-based ones, right? How can we prevent it? You could do it by choosing assets that go up in value that allow you to be less impacted by governments. Another way to get around it is to be the government. You know, it's a tough problem. It really is. Seems that Dipcatcher monthly alert was onto something. Let's zoom out. When you go longer, you have to. So on the longer ones, I move it down to 10. Yeah, I mean, young Jesus. I saw you turn off fires with your fingerprint. Oh yeah, what he's talking about was gold keys. Yeah, it happened. Look at that face. Dagrin asks, will I ever see my .07 call? Look, Dagrin is famous. He's been calling. Dagrin's been calling for .07 hex for fucking years. Literally. It's so funny. Go follow Dagrin. He's another. I feel like Dagrin is one of the first people in Hex that I ever followed, and he's been calling for .07 for years now. And for it to get to that level, let's see. It's basically, it's on the weekly. Let's make this one. So on a week, usually I like to go like a 16 week. And to get down to the Dagrin level, which is basically right here, .07. We could, I mean, all it takes is a big wave of sellers, and we're there, so. Okay, yeah, he's asking for the all-time chart. So they don't have it in TradingView. That's why, like, on the hex.cash one, come on. Can't really do math. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. Yeah, you can. Like, we all know that the price was much lower before when the Uniswap V2 started. Oh, we're not talking about this. Yeah. So on this one, just draw a line there. Draw another line maybe there. That's an important one because it hit from the top, and that's the Dagrin level. Hit from above like 3 times, got above it, then yoinked back down, and then hit it from above over here too. Draw these lines. Yeah. Supply and demand. Yeah, and that's what I like about the horizontal lines, is that it's just like it indicates like where the supply overtook the demand or where the demand overtook the supply. Now we wait 2 hours for him to notice. So glad I was taking a lucky discount. There you go. Your indicator is lagging, bruh. RH to crypto face on live stream. Is RH streaming right now? Polyzoomer Alpha, Desi's nice enough for those any of their ladders. Polys come for that Hedron, yeah. I get out. BTC, but you probably won't even make locals. This bottom. Cheap shares is G bar. Just listen to what you said about the rounding in HEX could work. Thanks for explaining. Yeah. Well, shouldn't team be worth it really so? Well, I mean, team's worth what the price is at any given moment. So the team minting was like literally about 3 or 4 times larger than I thought. And so since so much of the demand for team was absorbed by minters, it kind of makes sense that right out the gate, you know, like people were selling, like hopping to other stuff, or just like, you know, just people selling for whatever reason, you know, just with so much demand being absorbed in the minting at the 1-to-1 rate. And it also kind of makes sense because there's not so much urgency to buy team right now, because like the next staking period is in like 11 months. So you're not quite wrong thinking, you know, the market's just going to do whatever it's going to do. Currently, the market likes HEX, but not the derivatives. Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're that low. You know, it's like really kind of like in the range. And also, there's like, it's very illiquid too. It would be like a 17% discount minimum technically. I'm not sure what you mean. Should or would, it's not mean anything crypto markets, especially crypto. Yeah, that's true. Hedge and supply can skyrocket as lots of huge stakes claim, but haven't minted at all, obviously. Yeah. At 11, yeah. A lot of those guys. And they got you know, these people down here bought down here, 10,000 hex per T share, served 1,000 days. Now they're minting like huge amount of supply. Polypow, Polyfair, probably. I'm not thinking too much about those though, because like, I don't know. You gotta go where the money's at. Like, Cream the Dream thought stakes 555 is getting so much headroom that he can dump it himself. He's used to sim with the OA. Yeah, literally. And a whole bunch of people you don't even know that aren't on Twitter. Have you got the silent team or word structure tied to growing poly? Yeah, so good question. We're actually going to do so 1% of the hedron at the start, and then some percent of the hex at the end is what it's looking like. Drunk before the cake. Happy belated birthday. Look at the liquidity. All right, let's look at liquidity. Okay, which is the biggest one? Is that all the way zoomed out? Okay. Oh, no, maybe not. So he says, looks like support. So I wasn't tracking like actually like what, like I haven't looked at the liquidity in probably a couple of weeks. It's hard. I mean, I don't know if support is being added or if the just like this was sell pressure that when you buy through it just like turns into the support. So I'd have to look at like some historical snapshot. I wonder if there's a site that shows Uniswap liquidity pool time animation. Because you want to see like how this shape changes is like the important thing. I guess you can look at adds or moves. Let's see. Okay, so we want to look for big USDC ones. Okay, so over the last, okay, so 2,000, 20K, 36K, 20K, 10K. Okay, here's a big one where they put in, wow, that's a huge position. So this user here added, let's pull up their thing. Okay, so how did these ticks, remember on my stream a couple weeks ago, we were talking about them, we were trying to make like instant sense of them. I totally forgot what that equation is, so min tick, max tick, swap. Yeah, okay, he's saying 200 across, yeah, 200 across all the pools. This is just like one particular USDC pool. Okay, so price of the index. Okay, that's easy. So, calculator. So 1.001 raised to the minus 82500. That's not right. Oh, here, duh. It says right here. How stupid are we? So between 0.26 and 0.43. So yeah, it looks like they put in a lot of liquidity. .26, so yeah, so like right there to 0.43. So like right there. Oh yeah, that's them. Boom. Yeah, so it looks like this is like a huge amount of it. So combination of new buyers and then that big liquidity provider. Now there's like a bunch of support here. So each one of these blue ticks here is like 95,000 USDC, 90,000. Yeah, so if we go like, how many ticks are there? 96, 95, 95, 95. So say the average value is like 91. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So say 31 times about 90. Like $2.79 million of liquidity in between 3.24 cents and now. So that's a strong sign. We haven't seen liquidity pool look like that in a while. Like a whole lot more on this side than that side. And if you saw it anytime during the bear market, it's been hugely weighted on this side. So that's actually a really positive sign. Because now it's like to get to here, it only takes like, so on these side, these are like $30,000 worth right here, each of these ticks. So yeah, that's actually a really positive sign, is that there's so much more liquidity on the buy side. God, he was buying a lot. All right, you guys. I'm gonna hop off here. Time to eat some dinner. Haven't eaten all day. Starving Marvin over here. Well, thanks everyone. This is a lot of fun. We looked at charts. We discussed a lot of important stuff and had a great time. So until next time, you all. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.